Hi there, welcome to Thoughts That Pollinate. I've gotten 4 more videos to share with you that were recorded when I was out in Colorado on a sabbatical, and I've uploaded a couple of them already, and I hope you've had a chance to give those a listen. But I wanted to take an opportunity to share with you something just to put those first 2 videos and the ones that are to come into proper context. You know, this sabbatical was one of those things that I really needed to do because, well, to be honest with you, I was growing discouraged and I was getting tired. And on top of that, I was dealing with some health issues with my heart that I was trying to figure out. It all started with a trip to the emergency room back in February of this year, and that trip was followed by an appointment with a neurologist, and then a cardiologist, then another cardiologist, then an electrophysiologist, and I was just trying to figure out what happened. Now, I was slowing down quite significantly, and I was not feeling good about that. So I went to our church board, and I shared this with them, and I asked them if I could go on a sabbatical just to find some rest and to deal with these health issues, and they graciously approved that, so I'm grateful for that. Well, my sabbatical started out at the beginning of July, and I remember that the first couple of weeks I was just having a really hard time getting settled down and finding the place of rest that I was looking for and so deeply needed. And I was praying about this one day, and I was like, Lord, I'm still so wound up like a drum, tight as a drum, and I need to find a place of rest, and I can't seem to get there. And I was just praying, Lord, I need your help. I don't want this entire sabbatical to be like this. And at that moment, I felt him speak to my heart, and he said, Mark, I'm going to speak to you in the mountains. And I was like, oh, okay. I was planning a trip out to Colorado to visit my sister and brother-in-law, and that was just a week away at this point. And so I share all of that to kind of put into context the things that the Lord, who was true to his word, really began to speak to me while I was hiking with my brother-in-law up Halsey Pass in Colorado. And in the following videos, and in the previous 2 as well, I mentioned quite often how I was struggling with different aspects of the hike. Now, you got to understand, with the physical struggles of the previous year and the heart complications I was experiencing, I was not feeling very good, and I was not in the very best of shape. I was definitely not in hiking shape. But the Lord used the struggles that I faced on that hike up Halsey Peak to speak to me about some important things that I needed to hear. We weren't actually going to be doing the hike that day. We had planned to go fishing, trout fishing, but at the last minute, I don't know why, but we decided to do the hike. And to be honest with you, I was very apprehensive because I knew that my body was not in the shape it needed to be for this hike. But we decided to throw caution to the wind and do it, and I'm sure glad that we did because of what the Lord shared with me. It brought life to my spirit. It encouraged me. In spite of the pain I experienced throughout that hike with my neck and my back and my knees, my wind, it was tough. But in the midst of all that, the Lord really began speaking to me and talking to me about some things that were very important. And that I needed to hear. I needed to hear them, and they were important to me. And maybe, I just wanted to share them with you because maybe they'll be a blessing to some of you as well. So anyway, that's the context. And that's why you hear me at different times complaining. And I did a lot of complaining on that hike. Oh, God, I can't do this anymore. I can't go on. My back's killing me. My neck's killing me. My knees are, I'm not in shape for this, and we're going to have to turn around, and on and on and on I went. But it was at those moments in the midst of experiencing that pain, and it was real pain, and I was concerned. But the Lord, in the midst of that, began to speak to my heart and he taught me some lessons about life and about the ministry. So let's jump into the next thought that I believe the Lord shared with me while I was struggling on this hike. This next thought I've entitled the meniscus. And that's what's coming up next on Thoughts That Pollinate. You know, something else the Lord spoke to me in the Colorado Rockies was as we were coming down the mountain, my right knee started to kind of hurt. I don't have a problem with my knees going up the mountain, but for some reason going down, you use different muscles, and I think it bothers my meniscus in my right knee. And you know, we were cruising along, and the Lord said, what you need to do is you need to go slower and pace yourself, and it won't hurt as much. And I was like, it's kind of like ministry, you know, really not just ministry, but just our lives. There are seasons that we go through where if we try to go too fast, you know, we end up aggravating something in us spiritually, mentally, emotionally, or even physically. So there are some seasons where you just gotta slow down and pace yourself and take it easy in order to stay healthy. That was another thought that the Lord gave me as I was hiking.